Alrighty. Is this? I don't even know if it's going. Is it? It is. Okay. Well, I'm back. That only took me 2 months. How are we all doing this fine Saturday morning? I will answer for you. I'm doing all right. Pay no heed to the noises of someone walking around upstairs. That would just be my wife. And... oh my lord. Okay. I really do hate setting up live streams, by the way. Okay. But the audio's good. Microphone's good. Screen's looking pretty good. Just go to full screen there. Yeah, so if you can't tell already, this is what we're doing this morning. I feel like I'm kind of feel like I kind of am a little bit behind on this. I'm fully aware that our good old friend RFK Jr. was talking about Tylenol and autism potentially having a link. That is pregnant women taking Tylenol, which, if I'm not mistaken, that's not even something that doctors like recommend that pregnant women take while they're pregnant. Yeah, it's my Saturday morning mind. So, I'll be honest with you. I may do a podcast occasionally these days, about autism and and how to live life on the autism spectrum, and be married to someone on the autism spectrum. However, I am not a science guy. I feel like most people have to say that these days. I'm not a science guy. I don't really know how any of this works. My name is Forrest, by the way. Thank you for coming in. And the thing about the connection between Tylenol and autism, I have no clue. I haven't even really dug in. To be honest with you, I have cared so little lately that I have not even really dug into why RFK Jr. would make the connection to Tylenol. So to be honest, I'm one of those like neutral people who do not really lean either way. I'm not sure this video will help me. I don't know if this video will get me any further towards one side or the other. I'm just here to observe. I'm here to have a good time. I hope that you're here to have a good time, even if that may be hard when you're looking at faces like Trump or RFK Jr. I don't really get into politics on my show. I know I've brought it up every once in a while, but to be honest, politics is, whether you're on the left or the right or you're in that libertarian circle, I think politics has become a religion in and of itself in the past decade or so, probably since 2015 or 2016. And I am just kind of over it. I explained this on my Substack, which you can find at thepancakeking.substack.com. I've been writing over there more than I've been, recording shows and stuff like that. I actually decided that I was going to do live streams until after my son Terry is born, and I am determined to continue going in that direction. If I decide that I've made good enough material to kind of chop it up and make them into videos and really distribute them on on places like Apple Podcasts and Spotify, then I will do so. But right now, my biggest priorities has been preparing for the arrival of a baby and writing more, working on fixing my book, The Glass God, which you can still find on Amazon, but I will be releasing an updated edition very shortly. I plan to get that done before Terry comes along. And I'm also trying to get more into like stand-up comedy, trying to write more comedy and be funny, because I love making people laugh. It's such a joy of mine, and I want to take that and expand on it, and I want to take it to other places. It's going to be a slow process, but that's how we win everything, right? Slowly. So, without further ado, I'm going to get into this video, and then I have an article pulled up that I'm going to read through, and I'm just going to kind of give my thoughts on this stuff as I go. So this was, what was this? October 9th, so 2 days ago. This came out 2 days ago. Again, I'm a little late, and that's okay. I'm a busy man. I work a full-time job that has nothing to do with YouTube. As cool as it would be to have YouTube be my full-time job, but that is not what it is. That is not the position I am in right now, and that is okay. and then I just, obviously been busy, prepping for Terry's arrival and everything. And I imagine that, for the first couple of weeks while Terry is here, you're probably not going to hear much from me. That's right. I said before, I've been saying this on my Substack recently. I deleted my Facebook. It's gone. And honestly, I don't really think Instagram is addicting enough. Like, I don't really find Instagram to be all that interesting, so I still have it, but that's mostly because that's a more follower-based platform, so I would be able to, I can use that platform to make it work for me more than the other way around. That's not the case with Facebook. Facebook is just scrolling through people that you barely meet anymore and reading posts that you disagree with or just put you in a bad mood. And I was over it. I was just done. And I think Facebook is something that will eventually just kind of wither away. I don't really think it has much lasting power left. Instagram will probably stick around because unlike Facebook, lots of people rely on Instagram for a lot of their income. TikTok is the same. I think TikTok will be a replacement for Facebook. It's different, but it is also something that helps move people's careers along. So, I don't really have any interest in going back to Facebook, especially as I'm about to have a son. Facebook was the app that I found myself scrolling through the most often, and it distracted me the most. I still have Twitter, but I don't really use it, and I don't have it on my phone. I can't even share Substack links on Twitter because Elon Musk decided that Substack was not a reliable source, and therefore it's like unshareable on there. Otherwise, I don't really know what else to post on Twitter. I really don't. So, anyway, that all being said, I'm going to start this video and see what happens.
I'll say one other thing about Tylenol, only because of this. This morning before I came in here, somebody showed...
Okay, perfect. I just wanted to test.
A TikTok video.
Yeah, this I did think it was funny. I did see the first couple seconds of this video. I did think it was just funny to hear RFK Jr. say, someone showed me a TikTok video. This is a man who cares very deeply for, I don't know. He cares. He seems to care about people's health, whether or not you think it's misguided or, or not, or like not in the right direction. Like whether you think it's misguided or wrong, or he's looking in the wrong places, or he's just straight up crazy. Regardless of what you think of that, from his perspective, he cares about people's health. you know some of my perspectives on that already. If you are subscribed to my channel and have watched a couple of my recent videos from this year, I do go into RFK Jr. and his claims about autism and, and stuff like that. So anyway, just going to continue.
A pregnant woman at 8 months pregnant. She is an associate professor at the Columbia Medical School. And she is saying, F Trump. And
Hang on. Hang on. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that... Yeah, I'm paranoid. I just wanted to make sure audio was good.
Gobbling Tylenol with her baby in her placenta. And the level of Trump derangement syndrome has now left the political landscapes, and it is now in the realm of pathology. And a mother could overwhelm millions of years of maternal instinct to put her baby at risk. And all you have to do is look at the studies which you and I talked about. There are...
Yeah, I do think it's kind of funny that, like, Trump he looks like some ADHD kid, it's just sort of like sitting there, wow, I'm just terrible with words today. He's sitting there kind of doing this number, kind of looking at RFK with this sort of exasperated grin. He doesn't understand a single thing that RFK is saying, honestly. And, most of these people sitting here probably don't. I just think that's kind of funny. He's like, all right, I'll let RFK talk. I don't understand a single word, he's saying, but, whatever he's saying, he must be he must be right 100%. Or what was that line from Red vs. Blue season 9 when Sarge says, I don't understand what you said, but you said it in such a way I have to believe it you meant well, or something like that. Great show. Up to a point.
It's not dispositive that causes autism. It is so suggestive that anybody who takes this stuff during pregnancy, unless they have to, is irresponsible. There are 15 rodent studies. Every one of them shows if you give it to the mother, the babies, and particularly the male babies, have profound neurological and behavioral changes. There is a study from Johns Hopkins on cord blood where they divided women into 3 categories. Those who had the least.
So, depending on how this goes, we're about to hear an actual study. And this was something that I didn't really see after the Tylenol claim. So, if there's an actual study here, let's see how that goes.
Acetaminophen in their cord blood. And those who had the ones with the most had 3.6 times the rate of autism in their children. The middle category had 2.2 times, so it's a dose-related response. And there are dozens of studies that show the countries that use the most have the highest level of autism. Cuba has the lowest level in the world of acetaminophen use, and it has the lowest autism rate in the world. So this is not dispositive. It is not proof. We're doing the studies to make the proof. But in the meantime, the precautionary principle should apply. And any mother who is taking this stuff during pregnancy just to get back at Donald Trump is doing something that is
Yeah, Trump has that look like, oh, wow, what a bunch of idiots. It's just, that was kind of funny. We know that he's a very, very, very expressive guy. He, when it comes to what he's thinking or feeling, he hides nothing. He hides nothing on his face. He is a very, very open book. He can't, can't keep feelings or thoughts to himself and stuff like that. If he's not saying it, it's all over his face.
Logical. And we're seeing that across the board. I got a lot of other stuff to talk about, but I know we got a short time here. But thank you, Mr. President. You're making our country healthier again.
Thank you, Bobby. Could you just say, for
Thank you, Bobby.
the record, state what the autism was, let's say, 20 years ago and what it is today?
In 1970, the largest epidemiological study in history was performed 900,000 kids were looked at. They were looking for autism in Wisconsin children. They looked at every child in Wisconsin who was 8 years old. They found an autism rate of 0.7 per 10,000. So almost close to 1 in 20,000, less than 1 in 10,000. Today, the autism rates are nationally 1 in 31, but it's actually much worse than that because California, which has the best collection.
One thing that my wife kind of pointed out to me the other day is that she never really likes the fact that when people, whether it's RFK Jr. or somebody else, when they come up with these claims or these statements that autism is caused by X factor, or caused by this, or this is terrible, and this is terrible for our kids and stuff like that. Autism, we know, is such a broad spectrum. So you have people who are on the much more severe end of the spectrum, and then you have my wife and I who are kind of more on the Asperger's side of it. And these people don't really tend to keep that in mind as they use their rhetoric about autism and potential causes and links and stuff like that. So they kind of just tend to lump everyone together, which can be a little bit problematic, when you consider the fact that there are still plenty of people who were diagnosed on the autism spectrum that had no problem doing the things that they needed to do to, become independent, to live on their own, to get married, to be fathers and mothers, and stuff like that. So, it was an interesting conversation that we had about that.
System reports an autism rate of 1 in every 19 children, 1 in every 12.5 boys. This is a national security issue. There is nothing more important, and I'm grateful to you, Mr. President, because the flack that you take for talking about this issue. You've shown courage and you've shown leadership, and I can't thank you enough for letting me do this work.
Thank you. So think of that, 1 in 20,000, and now it's 1 in 12 for boys, 1 in 18, 19 for girls. So obviously there's something that's artificially, I think, induced, something, whether it's the vaccines in terms of these massive vaccines that are twice the size of a jar like that, of a glass of water like that, into a baby's body. And I've suggested get them in doses, get them in, maybe 20%, 30%, but smaller, not such a big. I think, that. Then we had certain recommendations, the MMR, take them separately. The measles is already separate now, and it works out much better, but there doesn't seem to be any impact if you take it separately. If you take it as a combination, it's not so great. And some other things, but I would say don't take Tylenol if you're pregnant, and when the baby is born, don't give it Tylenol. You can avoid it at all.
Not that it's even anyone's business, but, my wife doesn't take Tylenol while she's pregnant, but it's not because we fear, that our child will be autistic. I mean, autistic person plus autistic person, I feel, would equal an autistic person, but who knows? We've talked about the possibility that we might be surprised and the kid will turn out to be completely neurotypical. And if that is the case, I have no clue what I'm going to do with myself, because that means potentially a harder job connecting with a child who doesn't have the same wiring in the brain as, my wife and I do. So it's an interesting thing. I don't really fear it. It's just something that will be very, very interesting, and I'm just thinking, not that this is, of course, the best thing that can come out of it, but I'm just thinking if the kid does turn out to be neurotypical and there's no sign of autism in him, well, that's going to be a lot of interesting content. That's going to do great for me, whether it's in the realm of comedy or podcasting and stuff like that. There's it will give me a lot of material to work with. If the kid turns out to be autistic too, that will also give me a lot of material to work with. But it'll be two different paths, and we're going to get one of them, unless of course our second kid ends up being autistic or not. So there's at least two chances, because we want to have two kids. So I wanted to dig into this article here. From The Hill, Kennedy clarifies remarks about circumcision, autism, Tylenol. This is the conversation that we just watched. So I'm going to start reading this article and, stop whenever something happens in it that catches my attention. First, to start, Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. claimed Friday, so that was yesterday. Oh, no, I'm sorry. So that conversation that we just watched, that was 2 days ago, and then this that we're seeing now is from yesterday. Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Claimed Friday that mainstream media had mischaracterized his remarks about circumcision and autism rates. Yeah, we didn't even really get into the circumcision part of it. There's this claim that if the child is circumcised too early, that can also lead to autism. I don't know about you, but I had no idea that the foreskin was somehow this, shield from, catching the infection that's called autism. Someone's going to take that as a soundbite and completely destroy my life, and any hopes of a career. But I said what I said. It was a joke. Take jokes, please. Yes, had mischaracterized his remarks about circumcision and autism rates, doubling down on the Trump administration's assertion that Tylenol could be a potential cause of the neurological and developmental disorder. In a cabinet meeting Thursday, President Trump reiterated his personal belief that pregnant women and newborn infants shouldn't be given acetaminophen, the active ingredient in over-the-counter Tylenol. Adding on to this, Kennedy said in the meeting, there's 2 studies that show children who are circumcised early have double the rate of autism. It's highly too likely because they're given Tylenol. Oh, none of this is positive. Oh, wait, this is a quote. There's 2 studies that show children who are circumcised early have double the rate of autism. It's highly too likely because they're given Tylenol. Oh, none of this is positive, but all of it is stuff that we should be paying attention to. That's my spot-on RFK Jr. impression. Following these remarks, numerous outlets reported headlines saying Kennedy had linked circumcisions to autism. I want to read that quote again. I'm not going to use the impression this time. There's 2 studies that show children who are circumcised early have double the rate of autism. It's highly to likely because they're given Tylenol. None of this is positive, but all of this is stuff that we should be paying attention to. Okay, so he's even saying none of this is positive. Following these remarks, numerous outlets reported headlines saying Kennedy had linked circumcisions to autism. The secretary accused news outlets like the New York Post and USA Today of having distorted his comments or reported them with misleading framing. As usual, the mainstream media attacks me for something I didn't say in order to distract from the truth of what I did say. Yeah, I needed that. Kennedy wrote on social platform X. He cited a 2015 Danish study. Wow. He cited a 2015 Danish study on autism spectrum disorder and circumcision among boys under the age of 10 as supporting his claim of linking the condition to acetaminophen. I don't know what the frick that word is. Researchers in that study noted the hypothesis linking acetaminophen exposure in utero and early life to autism, but clarified that their study had no data regarding what pain relievers were used in the boys they included in their research. So we were unable to address the paracetamol hypothesis directly, they wrote. While Kennedy suggested there was I thought this article was longer. While Kennedy suggested there was an indirect link due to the use of acetaminophen, including circumcision, the researchers in the study he cited said their findings hinted at a possible link between the act itself and future neurological development. Our findings suggest that circumcision may somehow trigger the development of ASD in a small fraction of young boys. These findings obviously do not prove the suggested associations. In a small fraction of young boys, I think is the key phrase here. These findings obviously do not prove the suggested associations, they stated in their findings, noting that theories regarding early life pain and stress and increased risk of neurodevelopmental behavioral problems remain incompletely conceptualized. So what I'm getting from this article, and to be honest with you, I don't actually know what the bias is with the Hill, because I don't read a whole lot of like mainstream media articles. I don't know like what their bias is. I don't know if they're more left. I don't know if they're more right. But it does kind of feel like what I'm getting from this article is that Kennedy is not making any blunt claims that circumcision too early causes autism, because again, you got to keep that foreskin on just a little bit longer, because if you don't, oh my God, the things that you're exposed to without that shield. I want my foreskin back. So, in all honesty, this kind of just feels to me like almost everything else that's reported, which both right-wing media outlets and left-wing media outlets are guilty of doing, and that is sensationalizing everything. Sensationalizing everything. So that when you look it up and just do a little bit of digging, you realize that it's not actually as black and white as people make it out to be. From what I understand reading this, it sounds like, he's found some studies that point to this, and this, and he's pointing to these studies that were not done by him. He did not create these studies. He did not lead them. These were studies from other experts, other doctors, and what's crazy to me is that these same doctors, it feels like these same doctors or these same experts, they made these claims a couple years ago, or they came up with these results a couple of years ago, and now that RFK Jr. has said it, they're coming out and going, oh, no, that's not it at all, or that's not true, I saw the tweets from Tylenol, the Tylenol company. Who owns Tylenol? Or what owns Tylenol? Kenvu, a consumer health company that was spun off. Okay. McNeil. Yeah, okay. So anyway, the people who own Tylenol, whoever they are, they they had some tweets like maybe 8-9 years ago where they were warning people, like where they were warning women who were pregnant, do not take Tylenol while pregnant, right? They weren't saying that it's because it causes autism. They were warning against other health factors involved, right? But now that Trump and RFK Jr. have said that Tylenol is linked to causes of autism in young children, that same company is coming out and saying, no, it's perfectly all right for pregnant women to take Tylenol. And it's like, okay, well, which one is it then? Again, I'm not really going to get into my own personal politics and stuff like that. I can tell you that I do not believe everything that, Trump and RFK Jr. say. I am not for everything that they do. And the complete the contradictory nature of these people who come out and make claims that the contradictory nature of these people and companies who originally made a claim and now they're making a different claim because Trump, made this claim, and all that kind of stuff. It's this weird, obsessive, almost fetishy, or fetish-like pursuit of tearing down whatever Trump has to say. Like, The man, the man at this point can come out and say that breathing is hazardous to your health, or I'm sorry, like that's not a good example. He might come out and say that seed oils are pretty hazardous to your health. That they're not good for you, and that they might even cause this. And these people and these scientific experts might come out and say, no, seed oils are just fine. There is no evidence that seed oils causes causes illness or cancer or whatever. Like, it's not even going to be about what Trump or RFK Jr. is linking seed oils to. They're just going to say that seed oils is great always, no matter what. Have seed oils every day. So yeah, it's crazy to me. While while we're on the topic, I'm going to walk away for just a second. We're going to go on a little bit of a short break. I will be right back. Yep, I will be right back. Okay. I'm back. All right, I'm back. I need to add a we'll be right back screen. So, honestly, I didn't even really have much left to say. um I'm not really the kind of person that can keep this going for like an extensive period of time. Um I don't know. This is interesting to me. It's kind of funny when the government is shut down and there's just so, they're like everything, the news is just boring for a week or something. I find that pretty funny. But, no, this, I don't know. This just feels like nonsense to me. I don't know what. I'm just kind of tired of the contradictory stuff from, different, like, from companies and experts where it's like, they said this was not good or they said this was okay or not okay a couple years ago. And now they're just coming out all of a sudden after RFK Jr. said that this is okay or not okay. And they're like, no. And I don't know why. You have to wonder, like, why, it's not even about trying to get the right information to people. It's just about tearing down, the words of people they don't like just because it's almost out of spite. And, it's just tiring. Again, I don't get into the news as much as I used to. I don't even really listen to the political podcasts that I used to listen to. I just don't really get my news anymore. And you know what? Life has been so much more peaceful. Life has been so much more peaceful that way. It has been without Facebook and without obsessing over the news. There's been a lot more peace in my life, and I would highly recommend it for anyone else out there who reads the news all day, every day, and then reads the social media where we get the reactions to said news, or maybe you get your news from social media. Again, quitting Facebook, listening to less podcasts, at least about politics, has brought a lot of peace to my life, and I really, I can't stress enough how much of a difference that makes in your mental health. I've been focusing on making sure my physical health is good, my mental health is good, my spiritual health, all that kind of stuff. And stuff like this especially when you go down the rabbit hole of watching all the different reaction videos to this stuff, reading all these different articles from different biased platforms, be it left or right. I'm over it. I was pretty obsessed with this stuff like in 2021. I loved talking about this stuff. I loved reading into this stuff, but it was kind of like, it was almost like a desperate chase towards nothing. It didn't really provide me with anything beneficial. And I'm just really, like, I'm glad that I am in a place now where I don't care about this stuff as much. That's why it took me so long to even get around acknowledging the fact that Kennedy brought up some link between Tylenol and autism, because, people expect you to have an opinion for the latest thing. I talk about autism, so therefore people would expect me to talk about RFK Jr.'s words about Tylenol, like, immediately. I'm pretty positive this was something, him talking about Tylenol, that was something like maybe 2 weeks ago at this point. It was in September. I know that for a fact, because he said, a couple months ago that they would have some findings by September to share, that they would have a cause for autism figured out by then. The whole claim that Tylenol, has a pretty significant link to the cause of autism, to me, just feels like they said that they would have something by September, and then September came along and they were like, oh crap, we need something to put out there because we said we'd have something by September. Tylenol, you know. And to me, I'm not a fan of that. I think it's stupid. I think it's, what's the word? I just think it's sensationalist politics. It's to rile people. It's to rile people up. It's to get people's attention. It's to get them talking. And then you can just kind of sit there and, feel like you're the only person who's right in the room. So yeah, not a fan of that at all. I didn't really care when that news first broke that RFK Jr. was claiming that Tylenol has a link to autism. I didn't care that. I didn't care to write an article. I didn't care to, make a podcast episode. I want to be a little bit more selective about the things that I talk about. A lot of my Substack articles recently have been about, have just been about like waiting for, my kid to arrive, or just kind of sharing, experiences in my life, be it good or bad, and just putting a funny spin on them. That's been a lot of fun. Whether it's going to a class for new dads, or or deleting Facebook, or something like that. I just want to be able to make people laugh. And so that's been my biggest priority recently. I kind of actually reached a point when it comes to talking about autism, because I've been doing this pretty consistently for 3 years now, since 2022. Mid 2022, I started, my podcast, The Pancaking Life and Marriage on the Spectrum. I started talking about autism pretty consistently. I was trying to, educate people who weren't too familiar with autism so that they can learn more about how it works, what to expect, how to see the signs, how do autistic people deal with emotions and routines, their day-to-day lives. How do they deal with that on a regular basis? And that was all fine and good for a while, but eventually you do run out of things to say in that area. Of course, people have different, like people on the autism spectrum, it's a wide spectrum. So, not like when you meet one person on the autism spectrum, you've only met one person on the autism spectrum. However, I never wanted to go into a place where I'm speaking for somebody else and I'm saying that this, this kind of autistic person does this or this and this, because I don't have that lived-in experience. I can research it, and I recommend that you do too if you want to learn more. But I did reach a point very recently this year, in fact, where I decided that there is only so much that I can do with approaching that subject in that way. Again, I've wanted to do comedy for a while. That was kind of something that started to really take hold in 2023. And I realized, oh, well, I can just combine my own life experiences. I can talk about autism, but I can do it through a comedy lens. I can do like stand-up comedy sketches and, write blog posts that are funny, where they kind of feel almost like stand-up scripts and stuff like that. That's something that I've been leaning more into doing, and that's something that I have no intention of stopping anytime soon. This is something that I'm very passionate about. I've actually started to recently write an outline for an actual stand-up sketch. So we'll see where that goes. I'm really excited for it, and I do think the potential is there. And so that all being said, politics is just not nearly as interesting to me as it used to be. There's a lot of stuff that I would love to talk about that has nothing to do with autism, but it also doesn't really have much to do with politics either. And if I want to talk about politics, I feel like kind of connecting it with, pop culture in a way, because there's a lot of stuff in pop culture that, has something to say about politics and about society and, and culture, how we all live together and coexist together and stuff like that, I would love to get into that stuff more. But autism as a, let me tell you how antisocial, autistic people are, or, let me talk about, how autistic people read people's faces, and stuff like that. I'm kind of just done with that. I want to go deeper. I feel like I'm ready for the next level of conversation. So yes, not really much more that I want to say. I'm happy that I got to do this morning. I'm happy that I got to, motivate myself to do this. I want to continue doing this. If I can make it a weekly thing, that would be fantastic. That was kind of the original plan, and then it completely tanked. But I want to do this on a weekly basis. I want to have a much more professional setup. I want, obviously I want just the way these live streams are run to be more professional. So I'm excited for that. I would say that at this point, I am more excited for the future now than I've ever been. And yes, the fact that I'm going to have a kid plays a huge role in that. It really, really does. And obviously, for the first couple weeks, maybe even the first month, that Terry is here, you're not going to see me as often. I'm going to try to do the very best I can to keep up some kind of presence. It might be done more through like short form video content that I would post on TikTok and Instagram. But in terms of like long-term video, podcast, or like long video podcasts that requires writing and editing, and all that kind of stuff, you're not going to see as much of that at the end of the year. You're not even seeing much of that now because I'm just doing live streams, and then I'll chop up my favorite segments later. But yeah, I don't think there's much more that I have to say at this point. You can always come read my articles at the thepancakeking.substack.com, where I share updates on my life and marriage on the autism spectrum. I have an Instagram at thepancakeking95. I'm on X/Twitter as the Pancake King, and then you can also find me on TikTok at the Pancake King. And if you're not subscribed already, please subscribe to this channel. There will be more content in some form or another over the next couple of months as I figure out exactly the direction that I want to take this. I'm going to go in a more comedy direction, though, that I'm pretty excited about, and grow in that. So anyway, thank you all for joining me for this lovely Saturday morning as the weather gets colder finally, and it's actually under 50 at night, which is a nice change of pace. I love that weather between like the end of the hottest days of summer and the beginning of the coldest days in winter. I love that, like that fine line between there, and it's taking way too long to get to that point. So I'm excited that we're finally getting there. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye, everyone.